Okay, so now that your Zoom account for the Sanger Unified licensed account is activated, and you'll know that it's activated because when you click on your picture or your name or whatever, the initials that are up there says license, so you know that it's good to go, and it shows that you have a meeting capacity of 300. Like, how do you get that to your students? There's a couple of different ways. If you are using Clever, I'm going to show you one way. If you're not using Clever, you can either use your personal room, so this URL code right here, and you can just give them that code. You can also schedule meetings. So this teacher has scheduled a recurring meeting. The way that you do that is by clicking schedule a meeting. You can type it in here, so class meeting or whatever you want to call it. You can say that it is a recurring meeting right there. You can click recurring meeting, and then you can say how often you want it to occur. If you say daily, just keep in mind that it will still show up on Saturdays and Sundays, but I mean, you can obviously tell your students don't come to those. And then you can say when you want them to end or after however many occurrences. You can set the time. So if you want to say that it is from 8 o'clock, it won't let me go that way because it's already past 8 o'clock, but 8 o'clock a.m. and then it is for 4 hours. So it's from 8 to 12 every day. Obviously, the Zoom, you don't have to be on for those 4 hours the whole time if that's not what you've worked out, but it'll be available for that amount of time. You don't need to change the time zone. Down here, leave this blank, the required, but you do want to put in a passcode just to make it more secure. You can type in a different passcode. It can be whatever you'd like it to be, your mascot or whatever. Please make sure that there is a waiting room. You can choose whether by default the video is on or off. It doesn't change the fact that they can turn it on or off. It's just like when they first enter, it is off until they turn it on. If you think that would be too confusing for your students, you can put it as on for the participants, and then they don't have to turn on the video. That's up to you. Leave it as computer audio, and then down here, the only one that I would check is the mute participants upon entry, except if, again, for our younger students, if that would be too complicated to have them learn how to turn the mic on and off, although that is a skill we want them to learn, you can choose. But definitely don't enable the join before host. That supersedes the whole waiting room aspect and makes it useless. And we don't want the students to be able to be on there before you as the host are on. Don't check the only authenticated users can join because our students are not authenticating in. I'll show you what it looks like on it as a student in just a bit. The breakout rooms pre-assigning, we do have access to breakout rooms. Right now, we're working through the kinks of the pre-assigning breakout rooms, but you can definitely in the moment either randomly or manually create breakout rooms. If you submit an alternative host, for example, if you have a student teacher or a co-teacher, just keep in mind that there can only be one host for Zoom, but there can be multiple co-hosts, but only the actual host has access to some features like breakout rooms. And if your alternative host enters the room prior to you and starts the room, then they automatically become the host and you become the co-host. So just keep that in mind. I'm going to hit cancel, but you would click save, but this teacher has already done this. So she already has some class meetings. When I click on the class meetings, you saw a list of them. They're really all the same thing. It's just a recurring thing. You want this invite link. That's the link that you want to copy. So you can copy that, just Command C. You don't want to copy the invitation because this is the whole thing. And really all you want is this link. So just do that. I'm actually going to go to meeting and do a different one because this teacher has already used that link where I'm going to do it. So just ignore this part. I'm just getting another link. So now in the Clever, what you would want to do is on your teacher page where you can add things, you can now add a little Zoom meeting button. This teacher has done it, but if you hadn't done it before, you would just click add and then link. I'm gonna get rid of the students' names and then paste the link there. The reason I did that whole, I went and got another link is because it won't let you link the same thing twice. So it was coming up with an error when I tried to link the one that she had already done. And then anyway, class meeting or whatever you wanted to call it, you could upload or choose an icon. I'm going to choose the brain and then you'd click add link. Again, I'm not going to because this is live and I don't want her students to be like, what is this new one? So I'm just going to get rid of it. But this is what the student sees. All right, so then your students will see something that looks like this. This is in Clever. This is the overall, the more apps and then from the district. If they click on your teacher page, they would then click on the Zoom meeting and it goes to this. Now, the very first time they see it, it will look something closer to this. I took a screenshot earlier. It will say start meeting, and then a little window will pop up saying, please enter your name. If that does not happen, then it means that you've already at one point logged into Zoom and typed in a name, and that name will just show up by default. So that is the reason why we are suggesting that all of the apps are uninstalled and then reinstalled. Because we want this to prompt them to enter their name. We recommend they delete this, which this is just the name of the iPad. So for the students, it will come up with a series of numbers and letters because it's just the name of the iPad. It'll say like student iPad, and then the last 6 digits are their ID number. But you won't be able to recognize that. So we recommend them deleting all of that and then entering in their first and last name. They will not have to do this every time. It is just the first time that they do it. So first and last name. Then once they're in, the app will prompt them to access the microphone. They can click OK. It might also prompt them to do notifications. I clicked don't allow on the notifications just because I didn't want to deal with notifications. But once all of that happens, then for the teacher, on the teacher side, you'll see them in your waiting room, and you should see first underscore, or not first underscore last. You should see them with their first and last name. They don't need to type in their ID numbers. You can set up the parameters, but we just recommend first and last name. We don't want the ID numbers out and about everywhere because they are so prevalent within our logins and passwords, and we didn't want any shenanigans. But that's how the students would get in there. You can always send a message if in the, sorry, this is just hanging out here now. This is what the Zoom would actually look like. You could always send a message to the people in the waiting room saying, hey, you're not renamed. I need you to rename yourself. And they would have to go back and do that part. So recommending to do that, and we'll follow up in the other part of the video. So that's what we recommend if you're using Clever. If you're not using Clever, all you have to do is link either this personal room or schedule a meeting, a recurring meeting, and get this link. And all you have to do is link that on whatever system you're using. There is a way with, like, you would do this exact same thing within Canvas. You would just create a button using this invite link. If they use this invite link, they should not have to enter in a passcode. If that is the case, I mean, you can always, we still suggest making a passcode so that they can't just like give this link to others and all of that. But that's the benefit of having the waiting room, and making it so that you have more security. So that is how we are suggesting you get your link onto Clever, and onto Canvas or Google Classroom or wherever you are sending it out. All right, thank you.